All right, guys, today you're going to be combining two lessons. And so the first one is one of those lessons that if I had you guys do it all on your own, you'd be a little confused. So I'm just going to show you a couple examples so you can see the concept. And then we'll move into the next lesson, which is where we get into the meat of what we're really learning. So it's lessons 2 and 3, and we're going to multiply decimals by whole numbers. So the way we're going to start is by just showing you, this is page 387 if you want to grab your books and get 387. And we're just going to look at what multiplying decimals and whole numbers really means. All right, so here we'll do number 3. Here, this is obviously the one that's the decimal. It has the decimal point. This is our whole number. So the whole number dictates how many of these boxes we're going to have. So you can see there's 1, 2 boxes. In each of the boxes, you need to put 3/10. Okay, so we need to think about how 3/10 would look. So really what 3/10 means is we have 3 whole rows of tens, right? So if this is 3/10 here, we also have to do another one because there's 2, so we need to do another 3/10 over here. So we color in 3 whole tens. Now, if you were to look at that and think about it, you now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths. So if you go over here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths. So that's a visual of how we started with 3/10 times another 3/10, and now we have 6/10. Okay? Let's look at one that's a little bit different, but not too different. In this case, again, here's your decimal, here's your whole number. So you have 3 boxes here to represent the whole number. So there's 1, 2, 3 grids. I should call them grids. In each of those grids, again, we need 3/10. So there's 1, 2, 3. Over here, we do it again. 1, 2, 3. And over here, we do it again. 1, 2, 3. Well, now we know we have 3, 6, 9/10, which is going to be almost this whole board. So now we have 9/10. So this is what you guys would have been doing today, but it's just kind of concept where I just wanted you to look at it. So now let's go back to our notes, and we're going to talk about how to actually multiply those decimals by the whole number so you guys can see exactly what this means. So our first step is we need to write the multiplication problem. Okay, now that might seem like an easy thing, like, oh, I don't need to write that down, but you actually do. But the way that you're going to write down the multiplication problem is the tricky part. So I'm going to put a little arrow here. All right, you're going to line up the numbers to the right side. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that means in just a second. And in here, I'm going to make a little note. I'm going to write ignore the decimal points. The decimal point in this case, because we have a whole number, eventually you'll be doing a decimal by a decimal. So I am going to write ignore the decimal points, but don't forget to write them down. Okay, now this is what I'm talking about. I know it's hard to be like, what is she talking about? So here you have a problem. It is 0.5 times 6. We need to write 0.5 times 6 into a regular multiplication problem, and you want it to look like a long multiplication, okay? So we're going to do 0.5 times 6. Okay, now what I mean by forget about the decimal point is I don't want you to line up the decimal points because this isn't addition. In addition and subtraction, you line up the decimal points. In multiplication, you forget about the decimal points completely. And this is what I mean by on the right. They're both on the right side of the problem, or the right side of the problem. Okay, so step number 2, you multiply like you always do. So here's my example of that. If I have 0.5 times 6, I still am going to go 5 times 6 is 30, carry the 3. 6 times 0 is 0 plus 3 is 3. So it's exactly what you just did, but we're not done, which is why we go to step 3. Now, this is the tricky part, but you guys can totally get this. I know it. You count the number of spots that the decimal place is over. So now you count the number of spots that are in the decimal. We'll say that. Okay, so in this case, we had 0.5 times 6. We said it equals 30. But now look, you go here and there's your decimal point. Move it up so you guys can see it. Since here's your decimal point, there's only one spot over that we needed to count. So this is 1. So then you go over here and you go 1. All right. Now, in this case, the decimal just looked like it dropped, but it did not drop. Okay, so we need to put a 4. And then you take that number of spots and count over in your answer. And then you place the decimal there. Decimal point there. Okay, so finish writing that down. Excuse me. I'm going to show you what this means looking at the papers. So let's look at, this is actually your homework, which you're obviously not doing since you're home anyway. So it's page 395. And let's do this one so it'll be totally different than what we just did. So again, they wrote the multiplication problem like it was no big deal. They ignored the decimals, didn't line them up, which is perfect. So now we multiply like always. So we have 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. Now, excuse me. Now you go over here and you count your decimals. Well, this is my only decimal point, and it's 1, 2 spots over. So we'll do 1, 2 spots over. And your answer is 1.24, 1 and 24 hundredths. Okay, so now let's do another one. Let's see if you guys can figure this out. If we have 3.6 times 8, we have to line those up. Okay, so we put 3.6, we put 8 underneath, and we multiply like always. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 4 is 24, plus 4 is 28. And we count over the spots. There's only 1, so our answer goes here, 28.8. All right, let's try one more just before you guys go, just so we know we're set here. We'll do number 6. So in this case, because the 4 is here and the 2.3 is here, it doesn't matter. You still want to put the number that has the most digits at the top. So we'll just turn it. The commutative property says we can do it this way. We can change the order. So we'll change it like this. So 2.3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 1 spot over and 1 spot over. Okay, so your answer is 9.2.